So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another interview of the Shield Dude on a Couch. I'm your host, Hector, and today we're joined by the lead singer from the band Primordial. And this is a band that, if you have been living under a rock, you know they have been putting out albums since the 90s. So, they just put out an album back in September. So, first of all, Alan Nemtheanga, how are you today? And thank you for joining.
I'm all right. Bit tired, but regular Dublin Monday, raining, cold, bit miserable. So it's the way it is.
Yes, I'm in the Caribbean, so it's it's quite hot here. But yeah, I can the climate over there. So the album, your last album just dropped like a month ago at the end of September. It's called How It Ends. Uh, when you were doing this album and the title How It Ends, I'm thinking a lot of fans might have perceived it like this could have been like the last record from the band. What was that intentional, or will this be the last record, or are you not sure yet?
Who knows? We could all be dead in 6 months. No, it's deliberately cryptic, designed to fuck with people a little bit. But that's not really the intention. It's not really about the end of the band, although one never knows when things are going to end. It's not the intention. So it's not really about the band or anything like this. It's the loose concept of the album is about the ideal that liberty is the most important word in any language, and the pursuit of people's liberty in the face of authoritarianism or that kind of thing is does it always end as the cover is with the barrel of a gun? So that's kind of the loose concept. It just so happens to be 3 words that make people think it's the end of the band also, but it's unintentional, but it's kind of gave me some amusement, I suppose.
No, yeah, but it can also be seen when it was written, and the cover. Yeah, the cover is pretty cool cover. I'm gonna show the album artwork. So here you have the How It Ends artwork, and who worked on this artwork, and what was that you're trying to convey? I'm guessing what you're just talking about.
Yeah, I was searching for a cover, searching for an idea. And where we recorded the album, which is up in the mountains just beside Dublin, there's this old bar that we were going to, and a poster on the wall from the 1920s was this image, except it's a farmer and he was holding a sheath of wheat, and it said "Forwards into the Future." It was kind of like a 1920s poster celebrating farming and agriculture. And I was just looking at it and I thought, that's what I want, because I'm fascinated by propaganda posters, kind of post First World War, pre Second World War, the kind of propaganda posters you see from all, whether they're English or German or Russian or Japanese or whatever. There's lots of very interesting imagery, especially Russian stuff. I really like it. But I wanted something that looked very singularly Irish. And I just thought, that's it. And so I just took a photograph of it, manipulated it a bit, and we put a gun in his hand. So that's what you see.
Yeah, so you kept it like didn't think like easy, didn't think about it that much, but yeah, it portrays what you're trying to, the themes that are based on this album. So I know you were touring for this the last month. How did the tour go, and how much did the new material go over with the fans?
Yeah, it was great. It was one of the best tours that we've done. Paradise Lost, great band, great people, big crowds. It's hard to judge sometimes because you're just playing for 55 minutes. So you've got 6, 7 songs. You put half the set as new songs. People haven't quite absorbed the music yet. So how the new songs go down live, you're going to have to ask me that in a year after we've been playing them. And that's probably the truth. We haven't played any of the songs, but only really 3 so far. So sometimes what happens is, if you just play festivals, you only get 45 to 60 minutes. To explore all of the songs you need to be playing club shows for 2 hours, 2.5 hours, which otherwise you're never going to get to hear Nothing New Under the Sun or Death, Holy Death or any of these songs. So until we can do that, we aren't sure yet.
Yeah. So for next year, do you have some more touring plan for supporting the album?
Yeah, I mean, there's festivals, and we're going to go back to America for the first time in for Maryland Death Fest and play some gigs around that. That's the first club shows we'll have played in America in about 10 years. So yeah, I mean, there's plans. There isn't many club shows which have the scope for a big long set. But we'll see what happens, you know. Maybe we realistically need to do our own headline tour after the summer next year. But we'll see. You know, Primordial's not a professional band. We all have to work. We all have other jobs, other things happening. So you can only do what you can do within the time frame and structure that, you know, is allowed to you with all of those responsibilities. So we'll do what we can.
So you know, you've been a band that's been around 30 years now. For you, how has the music industry for you changed? Do you prefer the touring and playing now to back in the day in the 90s, or how's it different?
Well, we didn't do a hell of a lot of touring in the 90s. We didn't really tour for our first couple of albums for label reasons, just, you know, not really knowing what to do. First time we started to play in Europe was maybe 98. We played in the UK in 94, 95, and then we started to play in Europe maybe in 98, first time, 4 or 5 days, short weekends, and 99 with bands like Tirfing and Hades, Almighty and stuff like that. And that's how we kind of learned. I mean, touring now is, I mean, it's better, it's bigger, there's more people, it's more professional. It's still a lot of fun. For me, it's the reward for, I'm not really a person who likes sitting in the studio much, you know. I don't mind it. I mean, I like it, but I'm much more engaged with the spontaneous reaction of playing a gig or something like that. So if there was no gigs, there'd be no heavy metal for me. So I
I
wouldn't
think
bother making any more music. So
yeah, there's musicians that like more like being in the studio and creating, but I don't know. I think it's funner like if you're creating but no one's listening to it. What's the point? I
I
think
understand. I understand the urge for creation. No problem. But I mean, heavy metal in its traditional forms, I mean, is basically about trying to be in a room with other people. Like Primordial doesn't trade files. We don't write online. We don't write remotely. We just don't do it. It's just, to me, it's antithetical to the basic first principles of rock or metal. And that was to be in a room with people. So without that, for me, I don't really see any point. But you know, it's some people prefer it. That's fair enough. Some people like and I get it. Like I do enjoy the studio, but I prefer the movement, the humanity, and sort of involved in standing on a stage and playing the songs for people and that kind of stuff. You know, it's a different principle.
no, yeah, I'm guessing it has to be totally different. So when you were writing this album, how do you go about when you're doing lyrics? Do you first listen to the music that you guys get in a room, or do you have like a set of ideas that you want to write about when you start the process?
Not really. I mean, I just write when I write. It could be between album cycles. There's lots of words everywhere in books and on phones and pads, and I just write. And then slowly but surely, as we began to write the songs and put them together, I connect one verse to this bit and that bit, and then I'm writing another bit and see the mood and the atmosphere of the song, what sort of correlates and makes sense. And you just have to kind of feel out the song, feel out the music, and then try and do your best to match those things. It's just part of the creative process, but sometimes you haven't quite got a clue about what the general form of the album will be until you're a couple of songs in and it starts to take a bit more shape. So I didn't go out with the intention of writing an album about the themes that I was going to do so, but I don't think it would have been any different considering the strange place the world found itself in between our last album, Exile, and this album. It seemed to
For
me
sure.
to be self-evident that I would write something about the historical context of our relationship to liberty. And so if To the Nameless Dead as an album is about the movement of borders and empires and nations, this is kind of an album about the people who within those structures rebel against what they perceive as injustice or authoritarianism. So it's a sort of it's kind of an outlaw, rebel, dissident. No, I'm not going to call it a protest album, but it's something like that. It's got the rough feel that surrounds it.
Yeah, and 10 albums into your career now, has there ever been like a point where you had like a writer's block that you were like, has it ever happened like you were like, oh my God, I don't know what to write about, or is that been something that the ideas has always come to you easy?
Sometimes, yeah, and sometimes you're not exactly sure what to do. But I've always been somebody who's had quite a lot to say. So lyrics are kind of what fits my, I suppose, my education, my upbringing, my view of the world. That's just something that kind of came quite easily to me. Words or expressing these things. So, but yeah, there's always times where you sit around going, "What the fuck is this song about?" or "What are we going to do?" Or, but you trust in your instincts as a musician to come through that and to make, for the most part, the right decisions, which is part of the instinctual impulses of being a musician.
Yeah, and especially the type of like more doomier metal that you guys play has always, at least to me, doom metal has always been important. The lyrics have always been very important. So in the new album for you, like, do you have any songs that for you like, do you have like a favorite out of the tracks, or are all your favorite?
I don't know yet. Again, I come back to what I just said: is that until we play them live, that's when some songs take on another life. And there's songs on the album that I prefer maybe than others to listen to, or that I think I sang better or this and that, but not really. I mean, it really, the songs take on the other dimension when you play them live. So until we've done that for the whole album, then I couldn't really tell you.
Okay. But was working on the album, was there like a song that was harder to write, or like the one that was most challenging for you?
Well, there's some songs that are harder to sing, that's for sure. The singing on the album is, in my opinion, maybe the best singing that I ever did. And some of it is certainly challenging in relation to, there's some very high parts, there's some quite difficult harmonies, some difficult parts of singing. But no, I mean, I'm not somebody who fucks around. I want to do all the singing in a day and a half. I want to do 3, 4, 5 songs a day. 2 of the songs are one take singing. I don't mess around with going back and back and back and over the things. I'm sort of impulsive. If it feels right, by and large, fuck it, keep going, push on. Because heavy metal should be an impulsive kind of thing. I don't think you need to go, back and over and over and over. I'm never doing 10 takes of a vocal or 20. Forget it. 4 maximum, 3. If it feels right, and the engineer is like, I don't know, if it feels right to me, I'm just like, nah, let's keep going. Because that's just not, it's not about getting it. But see, vocals are very subjective. If they're in tune, it's got to be okay. If they're in tune in time or whatever, and even in time is subjective. And even something out of tune can sound great if it's done with the right character. So those things are more important for me. I'm more interested in, does it have the same impact as Venom and the Misfits? I don't give a shit about technical stuff or progressive stuff or whatever. Even if I can do elements of it. So I don't want vocal harmonies like, you know, Def Leppard, but there's a few complicated harmonies on the record. So
Yeah. Uh, when I think of Primordial, I don't think like Def Leppard type of harmonies to that type of sound. But
no,
obviously,
but they're
your voice within the years, how do you think you have improved as a singer? Is it some, or are you more comfortable now singing that, say, like as a few years ago in the past?
yeah, of course you learn, you add some new things to your, some new weapons to the armory, some new techniques, and you have to keep trying to grow. And also, you're getting older. Your voice is a muscle. You know, you can't sing the same way at nearly 50 as you did when you were 25. It doesn't work like that. So you have to adapt and change and this kind of thing. Sometimes on tour, you know, you find the recovery ability of your voice, you know, it gets a bit less and less as you get older. You've got to be a bit more careful. It's just, I think it's the same as everybody. It's just the fact that your voice is obviously, it's not like playing the guitar or something like that. It is connected to you. And if you're sick and you have a cold or you have flu or you're tired or you're many things, even like anxious, or, you know, you're having a difficult day before you have to sing, you know, it can affect your voice. So yeah, there's many coefficients, you know, that
Yeah.
can
So
alter how you sound.
do you have like a pre-concert ritual before you go on a concert to get ready?
Well, I put on all the, you know, black metal, this and that. Try and take my space in the room, not talk to anybody, focus. Sometimes I do a little bit of warm-ups. Just try and stay out of everybody's way. I try to get to the venue and make my corner from the start, where I set up all my mics, all my technical stuff, all my other, you know, clothes and stuff, and that's sort of my corner. And then as the show comes around, then I'll start to kind of nest in there and fucking do my stuff, and, you know, try and avoid the hustle and bustle of what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, no. So Alan, you know, I want to thank you for taking out some time out of, you know, your busy schedule to chat with me a little bit about how it ends and about, you know, the Primordial as a band. And, you know, it's been 30 years now. So
Yeah,
it's quite, you know, it's been quite an impressive run. So I think it's important for bands. Sometimes longevity is more important than having like super early success and fading away.
yeah,
Your band is an example of like a long career. So
yeah.
anything
I
you
mean,
like to, yeah,
let's be clear. Like, heavy metal is a young man's game by and large,
yeah,
and I'm glad that we're not tied to our debut album or our first two albums. The songs that people like and want to hear the most are from the last 4, 5, or 6. It must suck to be 50 and people still go, oh yeah, whatever, new album, nobody cares. Play the first album from 30 years ago. It's great to have that album in your locker, you know, it's cool. But I am glad. I wish we toured a bit more back in the day. But I am glad that there isn't, you know, 500 blank faces at a gig going, yeah, play Imrama, play the first album. That's what we want to hear. Because, you know, I made that when I was 18 or something, you know, so, or 17, whatever the fucking age I was. So we aren't that band. So I'm quite glad of that we can make a new album and people who follow the band are excited and interested in that as much as any of the last few. So yeah, it's a better situation to be in, I think, you know.
yeah, I agree. I think it's great because it would be like really sucky to go out and just people wanting to hear your first album and nothing new. So I think that's a testament to the band that people want to listen to new music, and because obviously you are going to be more that guy that when you were 17, we
Yeah,
totally
sure.
changed from 17 to whatever, you know, 45 to 50 age. So
We're an entire
uh
different construction of atoms, yes.
correct. So before we go, anything you like to say to the fans, on what to expect from Primordial on the coming months and next year?
Who knows? who knows if we're all still here in a few months. I don't know. Yeah, just that people
you're
take
a
the
ray
time
of
out.
sunshine.
I am, yes. It's, well, I'm not beaming to you from the Caribbean, so it's
No.
cold and miserable, rain, grainy Dublin. I mean, look, it's Primordial isn't where you go to find your your ray of sunshine, I suppose. However, the new album is at least riven through with a sense of a genuine sense of anger and rebellion and that kind of thing. Some things that I think an awful lot of heavy metal seems to lack anymore. Anyway, I would just say to people to try and just take the time out with the album. It's a long one. It's going to take a while for it to sink into your synapses, and that's it really. Who knows?
Yeah,
Who knows how it ends?
Yeah, I like long albums. It's an hour and 5 minutes. So yeah, it's a long album, but the type of style that you play, it's long songs. They're meant to be long songs in that style. So Alan, again, thank you for taking some time to talk with me. So the new
No problem.
Primordial album is how it ends. So until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and I'll see you all right here on the couch. Thank
All
you.
right.
And